Welcome to the Notorious Scoundrels, a Star Wars Legion podcast bringing you the latest news, general perspective, and competitive discussion.
Hello and welcome back to the Notorious Scoundrels podcast. I'm Kyle. I'm here with Jay and John. How are you gentlemen doing?
Tired.
Yeah, I think we're all the same.
Yeah.
I need a jacuzzi.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're recording
just got
this.
back.
Yeah, from almost immediately after NoVa Open.
Yeah.
Literally the day after NoVa Open. So my travel time was a little bit shorter than your guys. I drove
smidge.
Yeah, I drove the 25 minutes to my house from the venue.
Okay, Kyle, let me ask you a question since
Yep.
you're a native.
Okay.
Because we were coming in, neither Google Maps nor I nor Rachel knew what the hell was going on with any of the roads. And it would be like, in 1 mile, you're going to turn left. And I'm like, okay, great. And then like, it would be like 10 seconds later, not even a full mile, like quarter mile, it'd be like, turn left now. And I'm like, oh, and I just watch the exit go past me. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah, no, that's normal.
Okay.
That's could be a factor of like GPS bouncing around, right? Too many
Yeah.
buildings, it can't get a consistent signal.
It's probably a combination of things. Even if you set GPS aside, this area with its roads is kind of like a bowl of spaghetti. I grew up in Chicago, so Chicago is on a flat plane basically.
Yep.
So, and it's designed like a sheet of graph paper. It's a bunch of squares and straight streets that intersect with each other at perpendicular angles. So like if you miss a turn, you're just like, all right, I'll just turn at the next one. I'll end up on the same street. The DC area, not just the city itself, but also Maryland and Northern Virginia, is very much just like it's a bunch of exits and loops and circles. And like if you miss an exit, you might not be able to correct your mistake for like 10 minutes. And
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating.
That's what happened to us. We ended up going to the Pentagon on the way in.
Yeah.
So I was like, hey kids. So we brought the family down to NoVa and I'm like, well, I guess we're gonna see a landmark early. And we drove through Pentagon City and like right by the Pentagon, right basically through the parking lot,
Yep.
to get over to the hotel. And okay, good. Because I was like, oh man, I was freaking out. Like the kids, like the two of the teenagers were in the middle seats and they're like talking crap to me. Oh, the dad doesn't know how to drive. I'm like, everybody shut up. I'm gonna kill all of you. Like I need to like and Siri's like turn left. I'm like, it just zooms past us. I'm like, what? Like no warning. We're at the Pentagon. I'm like, oh God, is this a restricted area? Nah, it's just a road going by the Pentagon. And I'm like,
Yep.
okay. Oh my God. So all right, good. I'm glad
It's not just you. Yeah.
Oh man.
That's just how it is around here.
Anyways, I thought I'd bring that up because that was an interesting time getting into the city. So
Yep. There's a intersection of highways just south of Alexandria. And it's actually called the Mixing Bowl. Because if you look at it on a map and just visually as you drive through it, it's like, how are there this many overpasses and exits? Like this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's
It's a
I mean,
big
there's-
bowl of spaghetti.
yeah, there's like overpasses that are 100 150 feet in the air and going under each other and over each other, and yeah, it's
Wild.
crazy. Yeah.
well, and like it's not very often. I mean, it happens in some bigger cities, but like it's not often that you have the left lane exit that's like an
Yep.
immediate exit. It's most, they're usually the right. And so I think those always throw me off anyways, because I'm like, oh, because you're like getting ready for the turn. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna make a right
Yeah.
turn anytime here. And it's like you're 3 lanes over from the left turn.
Yep.
Anyways,
happens a
sorry,
lot.
so I just wanted to bring that up.
Nope, that's the thing around here. So it is what it is. So yeah, this episode is gonna be mostly almost entirely about
Yeah.
NoVa Open because all of us went and played. So we're gonna talk about that. But first, do you have any housekeeping for us, Jay?
Yeah, I think we'll keep it brief, but do you know what? Go sign up for the Patreon right now. You could do the $1 tier. John and I are going to record an After Dark this week and go more in depth with with what happened at Nova, and I'm sure some other stuff. So you can listen to that. We're back doing the After Dark podcast, and we're going to have some more content as well once Evan and I start the Fifth Tile podcast talking about other board games. So there's going to be a lot of content on there. We're gearing up a lot of rewards. We did a lot of print and play cards. We did the Battle Force cards. We're probably going to do some of the erratas for free through the Patreon as well. And actually, I think this quarter coming up in Q3, I'm going to do Patreon exclusive order tokens at the $25 level. So if you're at our $25 level on Patreon, you'll get an order token that will never sell. It'll be a unique design just for our Patreon supporters.
Oh man,
So,
I need one.
yeah, you can't have
You
one.
sign up for the Patreon. You're a pseudonym. You'll never know.
I mean, I think I'll know. So
You'd have to have it sent to a PO box or something though, because I'm pretty sure Jade knows
Hercules
where you live.
Rockefeller,
Yeah,
isn't that yours?
Yeah, Hercules Rockefeller, PO box, Washington D.C. Yeah, not suspicious at all.
So go sign up for that. The other thing too, we're gonna start doing pre-orders here pretty soon. We're actually going to take all our mats that we have. We do 6x4 game mats. If you haven't seen them on our web store, we're actually going to do all 3x3s now. So we will have all our designs are going to be 3x3. We're actually going to have a Marvel Crisis Protocol mat that we've designed in partnership with the Professional Casual Network guys. And we're also going to have a bunch more Marvel Crisis Protocol stuff up on the web store. But yeah, the big thing is 3x3 mats. And then the other thing that's going to be a few weeks from now. And then I think later this week, we're going to be putting up pre-orders for a pretty cool new product. And you guys saw it at Nova. And if you were at Nova, you saw it, collapsible army tray for your armies. I'm just working on a couple of tweaks, but there's going to be, there'll be 5 different designs, 6 different designs, one for the factions, Shadow Collective, and then a 5th Trooper generic design. They got really cool. You guys saw it. They're really cool. And
I was
I'm
unsure
working...
at first, guys, but I'm starting to be a believer. It looks really cool.
And so the one thing I'm working on this week, so I'm going to put the pre-order out a ways so everybody knows, so that we can work out some of the kinks, because one of the things I'm doing is making it, what's the word, John? Magnetically
receptive.
Magnetically receptive. So basically it's not a magnet, but if you have magnets on your minis, they'll stick to the tray. And so I'm working on that. I've got a couple tests that I'm working out, but I'll be putting the designs and everything up, and then they're collapsible so that they fit in your army bag, so that you can bring them, you put them all, assemble them, and then off you go. So those will be coming out this week too. Yeah, I think that's it for housekeeping.
And Invader League.
Oh yeah, and yeah, so that'll be in our news section, which we can move to now, right, Kyle? Is that okay?
News.
Yeah, please.
I'm taking over for Kyle. He's too tired. He had to travel a long distance through the spaghetti bowl or whatever the hell it's called. So Invader League signups now through 17th, I think.
17th.
Yeah. I'm in. I'm playing the same. I already registered my list. I'm playing the same list I played at Nova. I'm just gonna get reps with that list. You guys know my whole thing with reps. And so yeah, so sign up now. I'll be honest with everyone out there in podcast land. In the past, I've not been a huge fan of Invader League. TTS is a whole different thing, but Invader League, because of how it was structured in the past, but now they have it so that you can sign up for a region, so that whatever your time schedule is, it matches. So we can all sign up for the Northeast region. Kyle and I, John can sign up for the West Coast region, so that it's at least in your time schedule. Because a lot of times in Invader League passes, you would get people that are on completely opposite schedules of you, and it'd be like impossible to get games in, and that always really frustrated me. And they took that feedback and they changed stuff. So I played in the last one. I had a blast. It was much better, with the times and how they did all the round robin pairings. And so I'm really looking forward to that. So go sign up. I forgot the website, but just search Invader League.
InvaderLeague.com.
Yep, InvaderLeague.com.
Okay. Yep. I didn't always was that right? That's new. Wasn't it something different before?
No.
Okay. InvaderLeague.com. So go check that out. Go register. You got to register for an account if this is your first time, and then register for the event. So go do that. Come play with us. It'll be fun.
I will throw out a PSA because it trips people up all the time. After you register, you do have to go back into your profile and ready up, confirm a second time that you're actually playing, or you won't get counted. It's a little confusing, but yeah.
And
you can ask for help in Discord.
You will need to also choose a faction and submit a list before the start date.
Yes, they're not locked until the start date.
Yeah,
but
you don't have to you can mess around with it all you want until the start date. I haven't put a list in yet, but
same.
Yeah, I would encourage everyone to give it a try. It's a really nice way, because it's international. It's a really nice way to meet people that are kind of outside of your local play group, and even outside of your normal tournament scene, which is going to be on some level regional, right? So
that is the most helpful thing for improving your game.
Just so everybody can see this, you go to user profile, and then you scroll down to the recent season, so season 9, and then right here it says select yes to indicate you're ready and active to participate in the event.
That's the readying up. Yeah.
Yep, you select yes and then hit save, and you're ready to go.
Look at that, a full demo. Everyone memorize the 5th Trooper Discord number, 2275.
Yeah.
Send friend request to the 5th Trooper, 2275.
That's fine. They do anyways. I just ignore them. So do that. I had a blast last time, and it was really encouraging, and I'm looking to have a great time again. So
Yep.
Cool.
All right. Let's talk about NoVa Open.
Yeah.
So let's briefly talk about the format, and then you guys can launch into it. Just for those that didn't know, it was the heat style format. So there were 2 heats. You could only sign up for one. Each heat was 40 players max, which meant that in order to get a top 8 for Sunday, you could potentially have 5 undefeated players after 3 rounds. So there was a potential to for basically they were going to have the 4th and 5th ranked players that were undefeated play each other in a play-in game to see who got to go on to Sunday. Neither of those games ended up getting played, which we can get into if you want, but
there was a top 5 in both days. It was only a chance, and it happened in both days.
Yep.
Which is crazy. And I mean, spoiler alert, I don't know if you guys know this, but we have an exclusive interview with the winner of NoVa today. So
yeah.
I little brag here for the 5th Trooper Network. What was the number? 16-2. 5th Trooper went 16-2 at this event, and our only 2 losses were to the 5th Trooper. And so it was myself, Kyle, John, and Evan Bullris all played, and I lost to John, and Evan lost to Kyle, and that was it. And so that was super lucky, I think, because we were all in the same heat to begin with, and the fact that I didn't face John till the last day of Heat 1, or the last round of Heat 1, and Evan didn't face Kyle until the top
final
table.
Yeah,
it was pretty wild.
We kept joking about a 5th Trooper final when the 2 of them were in it, and the stars aligned, and it was great.
Yep.
Yeah. So the only defeats we took were from our own team, which I just think that's super cool. And honestly, we were driving home yesterday while while the finals were going on, and I kept refreshing the tabletop TO, like, and then Rachel got really into it, and so she's like, "You drive, I got it," and she's like, "Oh my god, Kyle won, oh Evan won," and like we kept going, like, "Oh no, they're not paired up against each other. We could do this," and so like. It was just nice, and I think that goes for anybody at home. Like if you're friends in a tournament and you can follow them on tabletop TO, it's nice to, to see that. So I was very happy and excited for our whole team. So
Yeah,
cool.
my wife actually managed to find the tabletop TO link on her own initiative while I was playing. Which I did not expect her to do at all. But she's like, I was following you on the TTO thing. I'm like, really?
That is impressive.
Okay.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, it was fun. Why don't you guys go ahead and talk about what you brought, your experience, etc.
Yeah, so I guess I'll go first because I had talked the most about all my back and forth about all my lists and having hundreds of different lists. And I think on the last Scoundrels, I said, you know what? I'm taking double heavy. It's either going to be a double ATST list or a double airspeeder list. I didn't take either of those. And then right before I went to pack, I sent Kyle a list with Palpatine and Boba and was like, this is what I'm bringing. And I literally packed it. And then there was like 2 hours left before we were about to get in the car. And I just dumped it all on my table and packed a completely different list, which was the one I ended up bringing, which was I brought a Cassian K2SO 12 activation list with a 12-point bid. So at Cassian, you know what? This is what I'm gonna do. You guys
Snap.
send me the links to your things and we'll just show them here. Can you guys see this?
Yes.
So I had Cassian offensive push, duck a cover. I had sentry cables and recon in the little as a secondary, and then his gun configuration. I had K2 with emergency transponder and the blaster. I had the Pike Syndicate Capo with vigilance, 2 Rebel vets with their long range gun, the 93 offensive push and recon intel, 2 medium blaster troopers, 2 Pike Syndicate soldiers with disruptor, syndicate capo and recon, and then I had 3 strike teams for 12 activations and a 12-point bid. Yeah, so it was it's a list that we had been throwing around. I think John, you and I talked about it on After Dark on the Patreon podcast, and I think we kind of built it out and worked on it there. And frankly, it was the one that I had in the back of my mind the whole time as something I really wanted to play. And I just, maybe I was scared or I don't know, nervous about not playing this very often or ever. I mean, I had never played Pike Capo, Cassian or K2 ever before. So it was interesting putting them on the table. And I guess I'll go through mine, John, and then we could talk about you go through your first 2 and then we'll talk about our game together. So my first game was against a separatist list that had Grievous, double Magna Trooper, double spiders, which was really interesting. And it was a little bit tougher than I thought it was going to be, just with the Magna Guards and Grievous. And so we ended up
it's kind of like a threat saturation.
Yeah.
At that point, it's running at you.
And so I clearly had blue, and we did sabotage moisture evaporators, and the beginning of the game is very tight, and then suddenly just the momentum went my way and I just started deleting stuff off the table. And the guy, really nice guy, he's a listener, he tried really hard, he did everything he could, but it was quicksand. It just wasn't his game. And unfortunately we were playing MOV instead of SOS. And so he wanted to concede. And I go, well, if you don't mind, can we continue playing? I'd like to get some more points. And he goes, I go, it's up to you though. I'm not, no pressure. And he said, yeah, that'd be fine. And so I ended up getting more points to do better on my MOV, which is a fun thing we can talk about maybe next cast. But
I do want to talk about that.
Talk about
Not
it when
not
I'm not
today,
on. I
but
see
yeah.
you.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
see you.
Just because it's pretty dirty. And so it doesn't feel great, but it's the way how it works, right? So he was a great opponent. We had a good time. My second game was against Rob Kopp. And he played a operative Luke rebel list. He had some of the short range rifles, which was really interesting. I had never played against those before because not many people play them, but Rob is known to bring some crazy lists, and so you never know what you're up against when you play against Rob. And we had intercept and yeah, that went right down to the wire, and I was going to take it on points, and we ended the game, right? And we all rushed towards the middle intercept for the double points, the end around. And I was going to take the game by kill points, and then we're about to start adding up our kill points, and Rob goes, "Oh no." I go, "What's wrong?" He goes, "I didn't have anybody on my back intercept." And so he never ended up scoring that one. And because he made the mad rush, because I just rushed everybody into the middle with my
Man,
12
yeah.
activations. And he was just trying to get the sheer numbers there,
Trying to
right?
match. Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, it wasn't the way I wanted to win, but it happens. We've seen people do that in large
done
games
that.
before.
Well,
Yeah. So
Not that exactly, but
yeah.
kind of like give up the game in the last activation or two.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Because you're so focused on something else. And,
Yeah. You get blindsided a little.
but yeah, so those were
Or
my first
tunnel
two
vision.
games. Yeah. So John, I'm gonna share the screen. Why don't you go through your list here?
Yeah.
This is what John
So
played.
I started off, I had some Luke Lando Cassian K2 list concocted up, and I was not feeling very confident about it, but I wanted to try something new. And I had only lost games with it, but I was like, nah, I'll be fine. And then like the week of NoVa, I remember at some point Kyle said in like one of our chats, he just made a comment that stuck out that said, yeah, these tables look really dense. And then I was talking to Bobby Joe, and he said, we were talking about what lists I was going to bring, and he mentioned, well, what about your Canto Bite list? And then that paired with Kyle's, I was like, wait. And I had this like fever dream. I was like, maybe I can bring it again, because the same list failed miserably at Adepticon. It was bad. It's like, well, maybe this is the last chance. Din's coming out soon. So I brought the Wookiees, very slight change. I got Force Barrier on Yoda instead of Reflexes, and had to drop some of the Wookiee Warrior, the Shooty Wookiee upgrades. But it performed great. Barrier is great on Wookiees, and and the tables, I really got some very ideal tables for them, where there was lots of line of sight blocking terrain. The only we'll get to it, Jay. Don't worry, we'll get to it. But I had 3 incredibly tough games. So you guys mentioned MOV. I had the worst MOV of the top 5 because I had 2 games that went to kill points, and the other game was intercept that I barely scored more. So the first game, it was recover the supplies against Nick Coleman, and he had Iden Versio and was blue. Oh, he had Iden and Iden and Bosk and Cad Bane. And so double bounty.
So just real quick, because for our audio listeners, so John's running Yoda, bursts of speed, force push, force barrier, vigilance, Chewbacca with nothing, 3 naked phase 1s, Wookiee warriors with the bowcaster, offensive push, tenacity, Wookiee warriors with the bowcaster, offensive push, tenacity, recon, and then the Wookiee warriors Kashyyyk defenders with the bowcaster, targeting scopes. That's for our audio listeners.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm a heathen.
No, that's okay.
I wasn't paying attention to audio listeners. So I've played that game many times against Iden infiltrating on the middle box. Didn't think anything of it. It was limited viz, which I thought, awesome, it just favors me even more. I've got Wookiees, they want to run in. And so he did the thing, infiltrated on it, and ran behind a wall. And then I tried to delay Yoda a little bit, but I wanted Wookiees to be able to go after Yoda. So once my order pool got thin enough, I had to I activated Yoda. I was on my 1 pip, so I had 16 inches, a double speed 3 move, and I force pushed Iden right back around the wall and slungshot because he had ID 10, so slungshot ID 10 even further. That put me pretty close to his army, but I was behind a wall. I was like, oh, fine. Well, I didn't know how ballsy he was going to be, and he threw Cad Bane right on top of that wall, start shooting Yoda. Bosk found a perch within range 2 that could see over the wall and started shooting Yoda. Yoda didn't make his god saves, so I started taking damage. Yoda died turn 2 in that game. But I had tied up the middle with the Wookiees, but it was not nearly as easy as I was hoping it would be, because now the Wookiees had to chase the middle box that was quickly going towards enemy territory. The game was back and forth for a long time because of that. The bounty hunters died because they risked their lives to kill Yoda, and the Wookiees fired back. But honestly, like everything said and done, the game came down to I had to get I never got the third box completely away from him. So it came down to, could I kill his box carrier in the last turn? And I had 3 models left in a shooty wook to kill a full 4-man squad or full 4-man stormtrooper unit. And I think I got 5 hits and he rolled 1 block and died. And that won the game. Extremely close. It might have even only been 4 hits. I think I got 4 hits. He had 1 block and pierced it and died. Round 2 was against Kevin Connors, who had Vader, and I forget what objective we played. I just remember Vader mad rushing at me, cutting a Wookiee in half pretty handedly, and then Yoda just sending all the Wookiees in just with guidance and ending Vader. And then we had the game 3.
Yeah, it was interesting. So I took blue player because I really didn't
hang
want.
on, just for clarification, you 2 guys got matched up against each other in round 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Round 3.
Yep.
John versus Jay. The team
and-
kill had to happen eventually.
And so I know John was nervous going into it because I had the 12 activations and
I
he
have
had
8 in case you didn't
Yeah.
count there. 8.
Yeah. And so I think I took blue because I really wanted my deck, and I knew, John's a tough opponent, and I knew that it was probably going to come down to the wire, and so I wanted to have the tiebreakers on my side, and so John spent a lot of time measuring the table and looking at it and thinking it through, which was great because it helped him supplement over the 4 activation defect that he had. And we ended up getting, what was it, major offensive, intercept, and clear or no,
we had barricades,
fortified. Yeah, we had
had
fortified. Sorry, I had major offensive, intercept, and clear conditions against Rob the game before, so we ended up with a similar layout. John picked the right side of the board, the correct side of the board, I should say, because he had this huge wall that was right by the middle objective that he just hid his army behind, which going in I knew was going to be kind of an uphill battle trying to kill the Wookiees in general. But yeah, so we set up and then I moved 3 units over to flank 2 of the vets and 1 of the pikes, and they started rolling real hot.
Yeah, that wall. So that wall was deceptively. It did give me a lot of protection, but it didn't give me as much as it looked like it was going to. Because the last like 2 inches, it's tapered at an angle. So all the silhouette corners are poking through at that angle. And it's effectively like, those last 2 inches of the wall aren't there. So he was able to get flank shots starting turn 1. And he's got cover. I don't have the firepower to return to like deal damage back. I just have to survive. And I'm not survive. I mean, it took like a whole turn and a half for you to kill the shooty wook,
Yeah.
which helped. But it was still very tight. Yoda had to go and annihilate those flanking units because the blast force wave just takes care of white saves that rely on cover.
Yeah, that was super annoying. I hated every minute of that. But and so it was really close. John did what he had to do, and I did what I had to do. And there was one moment towards the end of the game that sealed it, which I think, and I don't know, John, we talked about it in retrospect. I think it would have been close. I don't know if I would have won the game, but it would have been.
Yeah.
Maybe, right. But basically I had K2. He had shot some of the Wookiees to get, so he was no longer incognito. And the Wookiees charged him. And I was like, okay, he has no wounds on him. This is gonna be fine. I was like doing the math. I'm like, he can maybe 4 or 5 hits. Like I'm thinking, right? John ends up rolling 7. One got blocked by armor, so I had 6 saves. So I'm like, okay, if I roll 2, we're good. Like, good game. I'm gonna take this. I rolled 1 block. So 5 blanks, 1 block, and K2 was gone. And then after that, it was just there was nothing I could really do.
The dice quantity wasn't there anymore to finish the Wookiees in time.
Yeah. And so so John ended up taking it, but it was right to the last play.
Extremely down to the wire.
Yeah. It was a tough game.
Yeah, my games were very exhausting.
Same.
But great.
Yeah,
I loved them. I had a great time.
So is this, Kyle, you want to talk about the 5 3s and 3 and O's and what happened at this point?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. So I mean, basically you ended up 5th or 4th, one of the 2.
Dead last
and
MOV.
This was kind of like a predetermined what if situation,
right?
Which I think was good, because it set up a situation where, like, they wanted to avoid an undefeated player getting cut by a tiebreaker.
Right.
So at least where, like, you have 4th and 5th do another play-in game, then you get to actually play for your spot, right? But as it happened, you already had an invite, and the guy who was in 4th did not. So you basically just graciously said it's fine.
I conceded to him.
Yeah.
No one wanted to play a 4th round, and didn't want to take away his shot after going 3-0 to get an invite. I only regretted after when I realized that was my one chance to catch up to Al Paz at games played on the ELO table, and I missed it.
And for those of you, this was brought up at NoVa too. John talked to me about it before he did it, so there was no like bad feelings on my part of like, so you beat Jay and then you just drop, you loser. Like you should have, why wouldn't you just let Jay win? So there was no, we talked about it, and because John had asked me, should I just drop? I go, well, it depends on who it is. If it's someone without an invite, then yeah, you should. But if it was Mike, Dashes, Barry, Kyle, and Evan, where the other ones, I go, if it's someone with an invite, no, you should take them out, and so we had already discussed it, everybody, so don't worry, John didn't do anything to hurt my feelings. We had a conversation about it, and I would have done the same thing. The same thing. Like, there's, as much as I'd want to go in to the finals, if it came down to that, I would have said, oh, you don't have an invite? Yeah, you should go, man. Like, go try to get your invite.
Yeah.
And
So,
at that time of day, with as exhausted as everybody was, like playing,
It
a
was
full
like
game
7:30 at night.
Yeah,
yeah.
No one wants another 3 hours. You gotta wait for dinner too. And
Yep. Yeah, not exciting. So yeah,
All right,
sounds.
Kyle. You're up.
Yeah. Should I walk through the whole thing or just like high level?
highlights,
I
anything.
I think we walked through we were only in one day, so maybe you could just highlight the first day and then get a little more in depth on the second. So I have your list up here.
Yeah. So I was, as you know, waffling as usual. And
Shocker.
yeah, I ended up essentially playing almost an identical list to the one that I played for the local prep tournament that was like a month ago. I swapped one upgrade, otherwise it was identical. So it's Iden Bobo. So it's got Iden with offensive push and overwatch and loadout, situational awareness, and then the rifle and repeater in loadout, a capo with improvised orders, Boba Fett with hunter and recon intel. I had previously run him with C's, but Boba is kind of aim hungry generally, and I found myself targeting things that were wounded a lot when I used him before. So also
and
with
independent aim one.
right, and since you can independent dodge in a pinch, and also with improvised orders in this list, I didn't find that C's was like super critical. Although I would have loved to have it in probably what was my closest game, which I'll get to. But I ended up going for Hunter, which also reduced my bid by a point. But this is already like a no bid list, so I didn't really care about that. A naked shore unit, a mortar unit, storms with a T21, 2 pikes with the disruptor and the capo, so that's the 80-point pikes. Inferno with no upgrades, just Dell and Gideon. That's it. And then 2 sniper strikes with the DLT 19X. So 11 activations, 799 points, no bid. Yeah, ultimately, I actually considered cutting Hunter for a bid, but I had seen that some of these speeder lists were bidding like 10, 11, 12 points, some of these Blizzard Force lists and stuff. And I'm like, is it really going to do me any good to be at 793? Like I don't, it's already kind of a lean list that, unless I cut like a heavy upgrade or something, I'm not going to get below that. So I'm like, I'm just going to go 799. And honestly, the list, it does care about objectives in some sense, in that like you don't want breakthrough or bombing run against the speeder list, right? But it can play almost everything else. It's got a lot of firepower. It's got Boba with whipcord, which gives you some play against like the typical quote unquote force user objectives like hostage. Boba's really good at objectives generally, and so is Iden. Those two give you a lot of play on almost any objective that requires positioning, which is most of them except for the speeder objectives. So I figured it was okay to run as a no bid list, and it turned out to be the case. I was red in 5 of my 6 games. And one of those, I actually, the other guy had an 800-point bid, and I actually chose red player so that I could pick table side. So, which I'm not sure that I've ever done before, but I did this time. So, and sort of regretted it actually. But anyway, yeah, it was. My other consideration was the Republic list with Anakin and Padme, which I was kind of worried about people bringing a bunch of like high velocity snipers to counter pikes, but I actually ended up only facing one total high velocity sniper strike team all tournament. So wow. I think it would have been fine if I brought Anakin Padme, but I didn't. So it is what it is. Iden Bob is really good. I don't know what else to say. I was surprised by the list has a very surprising amount of firepower. Like it doesn't look like it would. It's kind of, a lot of the activations are very lean. There are other characters, or there are things like snipers and mortars. You really only have, I guess you have 4 units in there that are like beefy trooper units with heavy weapons. You got Inferno, you got the 2 bikes, and then you have the T21 storms. and that's it. But like all of the damage it puts out is very reliable. You know, there's a lot of high velocity, there's a lot of pierce, there's marksman, there's a lot of critical.
Boba with his now 5 dice that
Right.
ignores cover
Yeah.
is as good or better than any trooper shot.
Yep. And you've got a lot of damage from your command cards too, between, you know, all of Iden's and then Boba's too. You know, they're either some kind of damage enhancing thing or they're a weapon. So you get a lot of damage out of your characters in this list. It's you're not overwhelming them with efficiency, but you have just a lot of super reliable, like medium-sized dice pools, basically.
Right.
So yeah, it turned out well. I am day one. My most harrowing match was probably my last one, which was against Blizzard Force. And we can talk sort of high level takeaways a bit after this. Mine is Blizzard Force super good. This one was Vader bikes, and you know, one of the things that Blizzard Force can do is just make like a crazy objective deck. If you're taking Vader and bikes, you know, clearly you can run like breakthrough bombing around hostage exchange and and it's like I don't want any of these. And that's basically what I ran into. I ended up on hostage exchange because it was essentially with the way that the cards played out. I could either I think we could play like payload, but it would be limb viz, or I could go hostage exchange and veto limb viz. So I opted to go hostage against Vader, which seems like it would be suicide. I got a little bit lucky on the map. It was more on the side of open than dense, which was good for me because I had so many snipers and such, and he had Vader. Things got dicey super quick. He kind of deployed Vader like on the corner of his zone, and then I infiltrated Inferno Squad near him, and I did tactical strike turn 1, and I actually managed to chunk 3 wounds off Vader right off the bat with Inferno. But
which
of course,
Vader was it?
Commander.
Okay.
But of course he had bikes, and bikes can kind of go anywhere they want. So after I did that, you know, Inferno was done for that turn, and he was basically like, all right, I'm gonna kill Inferno.
Yeah.
And that's what he did. The bikes went over there and they killed Inferno, and I was like, all right, so I just traded Inferno for 3 wounds on Vader. Doesn't seem, I don't know, doesn't seem great.
Maybe 4 would have been even.
Yeah. Yeah. But since the bikes ended up over there between my snipers and Iden, I was able to put some wounds in on the bikes to set up like for turn 2, where I was able to kill a couple bike models. And then once those bikes are down to like 1-man bike units,
they're a lot less scary.
They're a lot less scary. So I kind of started cleaning up bikes. I was able to get some like a really nice flanking angle with Iden with her sniper rifle on one of his heavy storm units, which I killed. I think I fully killed that unit by the end of turn 2 between Iden and the other 2 snipers that were over there. So that helped a lot. And then he was basically in a position where he had to like run Vader across the center of the table to get to my hostage, and I just shot Vader with pretty much everything, and Vader died. So it was kind of downhill from there. But yeah, it's scary what they can do with those bikes. Like they can just go anywhere and target whatever they want, basically. Like they move so fast, and especially with 4 of them, it's like there's definitely a tipping point when you go from like 3 to 4 speeder bikes in terms of threat saturation. I think actually this list only had 3 in it, and even then that was a lot of threat. There were several Blizzard Force lists, particularly on day 2, that went that did really well, that had 4 bikes in them. And it's hard to say whether this is MOV or just the nature of the list, but particularly on day 2, there were like lots of tablings, which should be and historically have been kind of rare in competitive Legion. It's hard to say whether it's because we can talk about MOV more later, but you know, it could be a situation where like normally you would just concede and it would be over, 2 turns before you get tabled or whatever. But in these situations, it's like, well, let's keep playing, because like the situation you had, Jay. I don't know if it's that I don't know if it's the list. There were a lot of like full table wipes that happened, especially on day 2. We can talk about the implications of that later, but yeah, Blizzard Force scary. On Sunday, I was hoping to avoid Evan for as long as possible. That ended up working out. I can talk about what Evan ran when I get to our match. But my first match of the day was actually the craziest. It was against Rebel Hero Hammer. It was Cassian, K2, Han, Chewie, and then a bunch of Wookiees. And this is the one where I chose red for the table side. And ended up regretting it because it was another situation where I could like veto Lim Viz, or we could end up on recover. And with him being blue on recover, that meant he could infiltrate Cassian and K2 on the box.
Yeah.
Or I could play Lim Viz against Wookiees. I opted for recover because at least I have Boba and maybe I could grab it. So that's exactly what happened. He infiltrated Cassian and K2 on the box. I moved Boba up to where he could potentially grab the box if I won priority. I ended up winning priority on the first turn. So my calculus was I can either get Boba up in there and grab this box myself, and then hopefully I can kill enough of his units, since he was somewhat limited on firepower since it was mass Wookiees, before he kills.
And these are Wookiees without heavy weapons.
Yes, they were the 3-man naked Wookiees. Essentially, like if I grab this, he's either going to grab this and just run away with K2, and I'm never going to catch him, or I can grab it with Boba and hope for the best, which is what I did. Boba tanked a couple of shots early in that turn, but since I was hammering him with my ranged firepower, he was using Guardian a lot with Chewie. And then Chewie actually got enraged on the first turn. And because it was advanced positions, Chewie was in double move range of Boba, since Boba moved in and grabbed the box. So he actually charged Boba with Chewie, enraged Chewie, who had tenacity. Chewie did 4 wounds to Boba.
Oh my god.
At the tail end of this turn. So it's the end of turn 1, and I've got Boba Fett on 1 wound with the box, and I'm like, all right, this is not looking good. And he has Han, so I can't just like play Ripcord and run away. I ended up playing Whipcord because if he doesn't play Change of Plans and I don't play Whipcord, then I'm like extra screwed. He did play Change of Plans. He threw Whipcord back. I had to play something else. Boba got murdered by Chewie at the front end of that turn. So then I was in a situation where I was basically chasing a bunch of Rebel heroes that were trying to like lateral the box to each other. I managed to kill K2 and Chewie, and eventually Han, as they tried to get the box back towards his lines. Luckily, this was another situation where I set up like a good flank with Iden and Inferno. So I had kind of like a side angle on where he was trying to run the box back through. And I managed to, at the end of the game, the middle box was unclaimed. I had managed to kill, I think Han was the last person with it, and then I blocked it with Inferno so that he couldn't pick it up with anyone else. And then I won on points, destroyed by 14 points.
Super tight.
It was super tight.
Yeah.
I think he had destroyed 404 points, and I had destroyed 418 points. So yeah, super crazy, very close. Very like fast and furious game right from the jump. So and that guy's name was Eric. He was from Quebec, actually.
Yes.
So there was a contingent of guys from that area that came down to NoVa, which was really cool.
That's cool.
So
yeah.
And I think that he also got his invite out of that. It worked out because there were only 4 invites to give away, but there were already 4 people in the top 8 that had invites. So they essentially just passed all of them down to the other 4 people that didn't have invites.
Oh,
in the
that's
top 8.
great.
Yeah, it worked out really well. My second game was against Mike Dashes Berry, who was running Anakin Padme. At this point, like I was either gonna the top 4 remaining were me, Mike, Evan, and Keegan from Legion 99. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get matched up against one of these guys. Like this literally unavoidable. So I did get matched up against Mike. I was red on Vaps. it was a situation where it was one of those maps that had, it's kind of like an inverse line of sight blocker situation. There were a lot of blockers in the center. There were like these three big line of sight blockers right across along the center of the table, but not very many on the edges. And I was able to force long march. It was either long march or roll up. I don't remember which. I think it was long march. And I kind of used those lanes with my snipers to put pressure on them to basically, like, if this comes down to points destroyed, I'm going to be able to kill something. So he kind of had to come to me. He came at me with Anakin. I managed to whipcord him. I shot him a lot. Eventually Anakin died, and that kind of put the initiative into my column, whatever you want to call it, so that I was able to pick off some more activations, and we ended up tied on VPs, but I won on points destroyed on that one. So yeah, when you have 4 units with high velocity and Pierce,
Yep.
that's, I mean, people, I remember people looking at the results of this, and they're like, oh, Republic's fine. There were 2 Republic in the top 8. And it's like, okay, 2 things, more than 2 things. First of all, Keegan and Mike are probably 2 of the best Republic players in the game.
Yep.
That I can think of. So that's thing number 1, right? You have a tournament with 2 of the best Republic players in the game in it. They both make top 8. I'm not shocked. Second is, like, this matchup is an example of the limitations of Republic, right? Like they're really good in some situations, but in others there's like, like there's very little they can do on a map that has long lanes against high velocity piercing snipers, except just hope that they can like weather it and win on the objective. But it definitely puts you on the back foot, where you have to make decisions knowing that you're just going to be like taking hits on the way in. So yeah, we can talk about Republic in another cast, but that's the short version. Let's put into some perspective, A, the skill of these players, but B, also when we're talking about Republic, we're talking specifically about, like, over a long form tournament, how they're more vulnerable to bad matchups or bad maps than the other like, quote unquote top lists.
And I don't think this is me speaking out of turn, but if we had gotten any other table, John would have had a very bad day.
Absolutely. There were maybe like 4 tables that I really wanted out of the 20, and I got one of them.
Yeah.
It's like, got it.
Yeah.
Very table dependent, very matchup dependent.
Yeah.
So I did end up winning that one and advancing to the finals. Evan also won his game, so that set up the 5th Trooper finals match. And Evan, do you have Evan's list?
Yeah. Mad Raccoon Fury Road is the name of Evan's list.
Yeah.
So he had an AA5 speeder truck. So he's doing Shadow Collective with raiding party leader, Gonk Droid, unorthodox tactician, heavy laser retrofit, link targeting ray, another AA5 with the reckless driver, Gonk, unstable R5, comms jammer, 3 swoop bikes with emergency transponders, Black Sun Enforcers with scattergun, Black Sun Vigo targeting scopes, another Black Sun Enforcer with Magdat Enforcer, that's the grenade, Black Sun Vigo targeting scopes and fragmentation grenades, 2 naked pike foot soldiers, and 1 pike syndicate capo with improvised orders. So crazy.
This is only a list that like Evan could come up with. It's just it's so wild that you look at it and you're like, at first you're like, what is this? And then you kind of think about it and understand
very distinct purpose,
how it works, and you're like, no, no. Like, I don't I mean, you have 4 units in it that have compulsory moves, right? You got the 3 swoops, and you have the reckless driver bus. Like you have 5 units that have demoralize,
which is just free suppression when they activate.
Right.
Yep.
All 5 of those units can also displace enemy units, which is more free suppression when they activate. And it's like,
4 of those units wound as they move over you.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're all really fast. And then 2 of those units have the hardest hitting unit in the game, just as like a transport, just that they're carrying around with them, that they can get out and be like, hey, I hope you didn't forget about us. Here's a shotgun. Yeah, it's like it's super mobile. It's in your face. Going into the final, I'm like, how am I going to do this? It has, Evan's got a bid. He's got all the mobile objectives: breakthrough, bombing run, payload.
Yeah, he got blue all 6 games.
Yeah, I think what was it, like an 11-point bid?
Yes.
Sorry, I just had it. Yeah, I think
Oh, that's
so.
right. Anyway, from the mind of a mad scientist is this list, and Evan
787, 13.
13. And Evan played it really well.
Yeah.
Evan is like a super humble, very down to earth guy who's like always talking himself down on Legion. And like, can we just stop pretending that Evan is not really good at Legion? Like, I think he's made the cut 3 tournaments in a row.
ACO, Adepticon, and this. Yeah.
Yeah, each time with like a totally wild list that no one would ever come up with.
Yep.
So yeah, Evan Bulrus, you are good at Legion. Just
really good.
Know that. Okay. Like, yeah. Anyway, our matchup, we ended up with the least bad objective that I could come up with, which was payload. And we more importantly, we ended up on rollout, so I could get him going crossways, which ended up being pretty relevant. Basically, I think I kind of like messed up his tempo a little bit. That list works based off of threat saturation, where you try and like hit with everything at once. Because of all the long range and the pierce in my list, I was able to kind of start picking off stuff probably before he would have been comfortable having to get wounds. And his swoops ended up coming in kind of staggered. I did like 3 wounds to one of the buses. And essentially I was able to pick off the swoops before he got in with the buses. And then he couldn't do the thing where he like dumps a bus in the middle of your army, and then it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, because they've got Black Sun in there. So if you destroy the bus, then the Black Sun are just out and they can blast something.
Right.
If you don't destroy the bus, the Black Sun just get out anyway and then blast something. So, but hopefully, like, essentially I managed to get up on activations. So he ended up having to like pull one of the core tokens before the Black Sun could get out. And then there was one of the buses was in the middle of my guys. I took a bunch of rear arc shots and I destroyed it when the Black Sun had gone already. And by that point I was up enough on activations that even if he like started one-shotting things with Black Sun, I think I would still have been okay. So ended up like severely damaging one of the Black Sun units. I killed some more pikes, and then basically we called it at that point. But yeah, it was really interesting. It's a super interesting list. Props to Evan for coming up with. He said his goal was basically to, and I'm sure he'll talk about this on his cast, but his goal was basically to take like all the Shadow Collective units that people were not talking about being overpowered and show and demonstrate that they were good. So everyone's talking about pikes and maul and bounty hunters and everything, and this list has none of that in there.
Yeah.
So
I mean, yeah, Evan and I have been friends for a long time, and we've played a lot of Legion together. And I think the reason why he kind of has that mindset is because when he's like running his tests, he's like, all right, just play your best list against this. And so like he gets clobbered a lot on the way up. And then, but he's learning and evolving like a T-series droid from and
from Terminator.
Yeah, and then he like evolves
T-1000
into his final form at these tournaments. Because the same thing happened with his Vader Lat. Like I had played him a number of times. John, I think you were at the house. I played him, and so like we played against that list a number of times. And so he gets down because he's got all these iterations before it's perfect. But yeah, no, he sees things that, and something else about Evan, just to give him some more to his horn form, is he's got a crazy memory for games, and like he has like almost everything memorized in the game. Like, and so like he knows what the cards do, when they do them, how they do them. He knows what to do against them. And that's something I've always envied about Evan, is because I don't have everything memorized, and I always have to be like, yeah, let me see that card. What does that do? I had to do that to John like twice with Yoda, because how many times do you face Yoda? He's the bane of my existence, but I still go, wait, what happens on his 3-pip? You know, but yeah, so Evan's a really good player. Yeah, you're right. He needs to start like owning it.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the tournament. Super fun. Met a lot of awesome people. So
Yeah.
I have another one of these things. This one has a this one has a 20 on it. I assume that's supposed to refer to the original year that this was produced, but that's all right.
I mean, my understanding is FFG had a ton of stuff for 2020, and so instead of like just throwing it all out, AMG's just the OP's giving it away for all these tournaments, you know.
Yeah,
so
which is great. I mean, that would
fine.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, it would be silly to waste it. So
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's just because it says 20, who cares? You know.
Yeah, whatever.
It's still amazing swag that you get.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I had a great time at NoVa. A lot of cool people there, a lot of great friends, you know, that we all got together with again. We got to hang out with the Legion 99 guys, which was amazing. And of course Evan and Stabcast Tim was there, which was great to see Tim. I love Tim. So yeah, so just great times. No, that was my first time ever at NoVa, and I really enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was a really cool place too, you know,
Yeah,
where they have it.
It's a great
I
venue.
think I was talking with Nick Gardner like before leaving this morning, that I think I go to a lot of cons, and I think this is my first time at NoVa, was kind of like my favorite setting so far, as far as the hotel and where the convention is relative to it. I mean, it's in the same one, and all the access to a variety of good food that's not price gouging. I think all of that was great.
So we went to dinner Friday night. I was really surprised. Like, that place was crazy good, and it was just like reasonably priced. And I was just like, I remember looking at the bill going, oh yeah, no, Rachel's gonna be fine with this.
Yeah, it's in a great area. It's you know, for starters, for lunch, one of the things that DC is known for is its food trucks.
Food trucks and they on point.
They park like a bunch of food trucks right out in front of the venue, so that you can just walk straight out and get food from a food truck. It's also kind of like right in the heart of a high traffic retail / restaurant area. So, you know, for dinner options, like, there's a ton of stuff that's right there within walking distance, and it's actually not in DC, it's in Virginia, so the prices are not crazy either.
Okay.
So
the Gen Con food trucks, garbage.
Really?
They got nothing on NoVa. Like cafeteria food that you wait 40 minutes for. and pay more for.
Yeah. And out of all the conventions that I've been to so far, this is the one where I 100%, as someone who brought their family, believe you can bring your family to this, because the mall and it's all free. Like, all the Smithsonian stuff is free to go to. It's literally a 10-minute Uber away, like from the convention. So like my whole family came, and we had made plans that, hey, okay, I'm playing on Friday. If I make Sunday, you know, they were going to go to the zoo, but like, you know, National Zoo is free. And so like they went on Friday while I was playing. They all went to the Smithsonian museums and all, you know, they went and had a great time. So it was nice that they could do that while they could be there with me on the trip. So all you family people out there, this is a great family venue to bring your family to. I 100% think so.
Yep. It's a ton of stuff to do, and it's all free.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy. That zoo is amazing. I got to go to the zoo on Sunday, because that was the one upside of losing to John. I was like, well, I get to go to the zoo on Sunday. And that zoo's amazing. So that was a lot. It's huge. It's crazy big.
That's great. Yeah, my kids love that zoo.
Yeah.
The one downside of the zoo is that it's on a hill.
Yeah, yeah. Most
and-
your walking is uphill.
Yeah. And in my situation, I'm like dragging kids in a wagon. So
yeah.
yeah, it's a good workout. Yeah. Otherwise it's amazing too. Yeah, I'm glad
great
you
time. Had a great weekend. Yeah.
glad you guys had a good time. Yeah.
And
all
if
right,
I
well,
understand correctly, that's the third Nova. Kyle is now undefeated at all Novas.
Dude,
Uh,
nice
our
hometown
very own.
advantage. I think
Yeah,
yeah.
undefeated at
we got
home.
some
Not
secret
many people could say
secret
that.
sauce.
Yeah. It's I get to sleep in my own bed, I guess. That's good.
Maybe.
Dude, I think that may
Maybe.
be something.
It could be, honestly. Like, I mean,
I think, right? Like you're just comfortable. You're just like, 20-minute ride.
it
All right, I'll
depends.
get
I
there.
also have kids
Yeah.
waking me up in the middle of the night. So
Oh yeah.
sometimes I sleep better in hotel rooms, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So the next big tournament now is PAX Unplugged, I believe, in
There's
December.
SoCal and Golden State before.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Yeah. SoCal and Golden State, then PAX, then LVO.
Yep. SoCal's in
Correct.
October. When is Golden State?
I think November.
Okay.
Yeah, November 4th or 5th or
And then
something like
PAX
that.
PAX is December.
Early December.
December 2nd
Yep.
through the 4th. Yeah.
Okay.
So is SoCal have tickets on the line?
No.
No.
It's
Okay.
a FLG
So
tournament.
Golden State has tickets. PAX, I don't think they have tickets.
No tickets
and then
yet.
LVO has tickets on the line and
Yeah.
then there's also going to be a last chance qualifier at Adepticon. So multiple chances to still get your Worlds invites and maybe some plane tickets.
And
If you go to
PAX
PAX, for
has
sure
plane
you'll
tickets.
get plane tickets. Yeah.
What, like 6 plane tickets total? Top 4
Yeah.
and 2 raffles.
Top 4 and 2 random. Yeah.
That's pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
Insane.
That's all community supported, by the way, just so
Yeah.
everybody knows. That's all the community members putting together for that. So
Yep. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we could probably talk more broadly about like what Nova told us about the meta, but it's already kind of late. So I feel like maybe we could just punt that to the next week.
yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great.
Okay. Awesome. I do have some thoughts on that as well as on MOV.
Yeah, let everybody argue on Facebook about how many units of Shadow Collective you can take in a
TLDR, since I
And a
won't be
list.
there next week, I don't think there is a meta. It's just Wild
Agreed.
West.
I think so too.
I'm not sure I'd go that far. But I do think
Pikes
it's
are really good.
they are. I do think it's funny. I mean, even 2 pikes, like, they're, oh my gosh, they're so good. But just it was funny because everyone's talking about like, Blizzard Force and pikes, and from my perspective, I'm like, man, because I full disclosure, before this tournament, I have not played Boba Fett in a major tournament. I played him in that local practice tournament, and I played him at Nova, and that's it. So like my only like self-play exposure to Boba Fett is a new Boba Fett 2.0, whatever you want to call him.
Okay.
He's super good.
Yes.
He's about to get 3 more command cards, some unknown quantity of equipable weapons.
Yeah. He
and
got a lot better, even just with the own mercenary upgrade. The extra dice,
that's what I mean.
independent,
Yeah.
insane.
Like, and for some reason people aren't talking about him, and I just want to say Boba Fett good, Boba Fett about to get better. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't know.
Yeah, I
agree. I agree. Imperial's the only faction I don't own.
I think my quick takeaway was like I think bids are back in fashion.
Yeah.
Again. And I don't know. I'm really digging. Oh God, I think this is a personal takeaway, but as much as Lucas and I joke about not being Empire anymore, I think the reality is I'm not. I think I might be a Rebel now. Like I'm just loving Rebels so much. Like I didn't, with the Luke Sabine thing was just this fun test, but then man, this Cassian list, I had so much fun playing it, and it's so good, and I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. So I think I might have found my new jam, which is
Okay.
Rebels.
All right.
So,
Well, you do you. I think I'm gonna be playing Empire for a while.
but this could all be a lie,
it's
and next
gross.
week I could play something completely different. So we'll see.
I was thinking that I was gonna like just run Shadow Collective with Pikes and Maul just to like get it out of my system for Invader.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, how do I not just run Boba Fett again? Especially since his new command cards are gonna be legal for Invader. So I don't know. It's not a
Interesting.
decision I have to make yet, but anyway, yeah, we'll talk a little more next week about high level takeaways and other stuff. But yeah, congrats to everyone at NoVa. I hope everyone had a good time. So
Congrats to our champ.
Yeah.
yeah, it was fun. I'm glad I could defend my home turf again. So
I'm glad it was against.
I'll take
Evan.
it from
I'm
you
glad
next
Evan
year.
made it,
yeah, I am too.
dude. I got a feeling Evan's gonna take it from you next year. If he keeps going,
We'll
he's
see.
gonna
Yeah,
become
he's got a very upward
super
trend.
evolved.
I've
Yeah.
just plateaued basically.
Super
Yeah.
Saiyan 3 is next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Well, we are the Notorious Scoundrels. I'm Kyle.
I'm Jay.
John Bushfax Bushman.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.
This has been a Fifth Trooper production,